When Seattle and Adrian Belew made up their minds that they were going to torture me into Parkinson's, which they have done, ignore deafness and neurotrauma, jeering me for it, and throwing tomatoes at me in the form of attack prostitution, which somehow they think is so ordinary and easy to do that someone like me should just expect them to do that. They were forcing on me their claim that out of the clear blue sky, I should be held responsible by Yoko Ono for what she claims is the death of John Lennon, with no defense, no realization about the realities of me, nothing to do with the truth. So here we are. I have never lived above the poverty line, and I'm going to try to give you some idea. You notice they poison me in the mouth. It's not very attractive. Nobody has kissed me in 30 years. I want to give you an idea of what reality was for me as a child so that you don't see me as Aaron Judge's answer to the problem of the world poor. I mean, what led me to make this video was the understanding that the UN is giving its largest donation of $250 million to the world's poor and doesn't rival Aaron Judge's contract for baseball. He wouldn't have settled for $250 million. And of course, the people who attacked me claim that there's some sort of sociological warpath thingamajig at work in their judgment from Aaron Center. Well, the reality is that although people may have learned about me from my performance in media or my tapping into studios or my distinguished father, the truth was my mother was very poor and had no time to teach me anything. Deaf people in Pittsburgh are just ground out. We walk the streets, we ride the buses, we're invisible. We pass long days without friendship alone. We don't have the acumen or the aptitude to do particularly well at school. And beggars can't be choosers when it comes to who we associate with. In order to leave my little room in my little abode at all, anytime, anywhere, I had to go to a house or a pier where I was welcome. And because of my deafness, and because of the way I was being used in a gargantuanism about which I knew nothing, my choices were few, far between, and usually resulted in my being fixed in a position where I could be watched and evaluated by people much, much, much more cunning than me, whose vocabulary was much better than me. At a time when torture wasn't in my vocabulary, abuse wasn't in my vocabulary. The only thing I knew was, hi, what's up now? Hi, what's up now? Meanwhile, they were hot wiring me into this derision that drives Seattle, Washington. It drives the executive base in King County. It drives their newspaper establishment. It drives, like all hell, their university system. It drives their employers like Bill Gates and Amazon. It drives them with malice, cruelty, sadism to distraction. They're a casino mob. It drives them at Native American centers. It drives them at homeless shelters. It drives them on buses, in the streets, in tent cities, at newspapers. It drives them in corporations. It drives them in orchestras and museums. It drives them in mental health centers. Hatred, recreational sadism, bastardized slanders, grafted from lies told by rock stars, how insidious they see with slander. And that's their whole aim. They can't comprehend a deaf person trying to get by catching a bus to a store, thumbing through a magazine rack, choosing one to buy, going to a cafe to read about cinema, making some gradual progress in education by learning some sign language or reading something interesting and replying. Of course, by replying, you open yourself up to terrible reprisals by the open mic bullies. They yell smackdown, and they go after people who you love as poachers. They really do. And what is the justification for any of this? They don't want people to understand that a deaf person in Pittsburgh spends long days moping, alone. That even when they find friends, or so called friends, as a beggar looking for some kind of company where they'll be accepted, they're on the margins. They're laughed at. There are things to wear as ornamentations to prove that you're a gang of the people. They get seduced by girls who are amused by stories that they cry when you break up with them. They're abandoned by psychologists. They're mocked by psychiatrists. They're told to say ah at any experiment that the recreational sadists on high choose to use them for. And they have no say in the matter. My eyes watered with love and pity when my very best friend, a born deaf girl, said, I love Kmart to me in sign language, because I could see how rare it was that anybody packed her up in the car and said, let's go shopping. Occasionally, I would borrow my mother's car and take this woman out. Seattle made sure, once I got here under their false premises, that I never saw her again. They were driven to make sure of that. It was part of their stick.